Hello again. This time we're looking at the Telecommunication Act of 1996 and beyond. It was the last telecommunication act we've had, so we got to work with it. It also leads us into the discussion of mobile phones, which is crucial when we talk about telephony. Okay, I want to point out, first of all, that we talked about the MFJ last time. And these are guys, and it shows how they voted against it. Senator McCain, Senator Packwood both voted against it. And Nichols and Abram, both senators, voted for it. Question is, would they vote? What was the issue? Well, one of the issues was the Telecommunication Act 1996 removed the ban of phone companies getting into the cable business. Okay, now, to this day, telcos are more interested in pursuing markets in telephony than in cable. So this was really for the telephone industry more than it was for anybody else. But it deregulated all this. And what I mean by that is cable companies could get in the phone business could get in the cable business, internet companies could get in the phone business, internet companies could get in the cable business, and everybody could get whatever they wanted. And so the people like Senator McCain argued against it, saying that this is not going to help the consumer. This is not going to help competition. This is going to create monopolies, which he was right. It did. On the other hand, the argument in favor of this was, no, it will create competition, which it has. So you can flip a coin and see which side you want to be on in this thing. But the reality is we've now had this thing for 30 years. Okay? And that's what we operate from. There's actually the article in the Washington Post, February 2nd, 1996, which was the day after they approved this. And Bill Clinton was the president. He signed the measure to have this. And as it pointed out, it's going to have a wide impact, and it tells you some things there. This is from 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, the mobile phone, okay, which was introduced prior to 1996, but which took off after 1996 because of the deregulation, principally which got rid of competition. Encouraged competition and got rid of the restriction on competition. Okay, so we're going through 1G, 2G. Those all just mean generation. First, we're at 5G now. Most people have 5G, and we're going to have 6 and 7G. Now, we know the smartphone was first introduced in 1992 by IBM. It was a Simon. If you look at that picture I have on the screen, you'll see there's something wrong. The screen's way too. They have a keyboard that takes up almost the entire phone. It was not very popular, but it was the first. BlackBerry came after that, and it was much more popular. And then, of course, the iPhone came after that, and it was even more popular. iPhone introduced in 2007. And so now we have things like, we have competition between Samsung, BlackBerry, etc., versus iPhone. Okay. They use different operating systems. Samsung would use an Android, and the computer on the right, iPhone, would use iOS. Here's what we see. Android on one side, iOS on the other. Those are the two major companies with mobile phones. Now, the two major companies in landline phones, Verizon, AT&T, of course, they work with both Android and iOS. Originally, you had to buy your iPhone from AT&T. You don't anymore. So there's been a lot of changes there. But these are the two principal operating systems. There are a few others that are small and they don't have much market share. Here's what's interesting. Android is free, of course, and you can use it on any phone that you want. Well, it won't work on the Apple phones. iOS is not free. It comes with the Apple phones that you buy. So Android has 70% of the world market, partly because it's free. So a lot of these developing countries, they use Androids. iOS has 30%. Now, in the United States, iOS will take over Android and have a larger market share. They're about 50-50, but iOS is a little bit higher. Here, how the smartphone used by country. I just thought it'd be interesting to show this. What I want to show you is where is they being used. Okay, down at the bottom, you see China is the, they have a lot of people, have a lot of cell phones. China is very interesting country when it comes to technology. Half the technology in the world was created in China alone. India, of course, it actually has more people than China now. It has a lot of cell phones. The United States ranks third there. Some countries will actually have more cell phones than do people. Okay, but you can see Indonesia, Brazil, usually there's a connection between the number of people and the number of cell phones that you have and you use in your country. Now, to get a little bit into the technology, just so it'll make sense to you. Okay, in order to have what they call a 4-tier stack, which is what the engineers would talk about in mobile telephony. We're not going to talk about the specifics of that. But here's what you have to have. You have to have an app of some type. WhatsApp. Okay, it works fine. Operating system, either Android or iOS. There are a couple others, but those are the two that one of those two is what you're going to have. And of course, you have to have a smartphone to use this. You have to have your phone, and that phone has to be connected to a cellular network. Those are the 4 things you must have for the mobile phone to work. Now, let's take a look at how this works. Up here at the top, we have antennas, where what's happening with the antennas is we're collecting and we're connecting to cell phones all over the place in this particular cell tower. Okay, these little satellite items actually help as well. So they collect it. They have a transceiver. Okay, which is something that is on the cell phone towers that helps with the flow of the information from one place to the next. Now, here's what I want you to understand. There's going to be some cabling. So you're out here, you're over here in the tree someplace, and you are connecting to this cell tower. Okay, it sends a cable down here, okay, to the base unit, okay? Here's our backup power to make sure this thing works. And our cabinets and our shelters are over here where they have storage. But this is the important guy here. The base band unit, the BBU, okay? Here's why it's important. Look at this drawing. Okay, our phone has come to this unit. We're at the tower, okay? Now, here's what happens. We're going to go with a base station. This is the base station. It's going to go wireless. It's going to be wired, and it's going to go conceivably. It goes over here to what they call the aggregation points, market level points that aggregate the traffic, and then it goes to the mobile core, which is where it's switched. Oh, sorry, and then we come back down this way. We're going to be switched over to a mobile situation. We're still wireless. We're still wired. I'm sorry. If we get here, and then this is another process reverses. So this is essentially a base unit in reverse. It sends a signal over here back to a tower that is hooked up to the wired, but it will send, and this is important for you to know, it actually sends an analog signal back to your phone. We talk about having digital phones. The phones themselves aren't always digital, okay? A lot of times they're analog. Most of the time they're analog. They're collecting these analog waves, and then you get your phone. So if this is you over here making your phone call to your friend who's over here, this is a process that's going through every time you talk. Okay? Now, here's my favorite thing about this. I have these things numbered. Let me show you this next one. This is a better one. Okay. I just numbered these are just numbered 1 through 7. Doesn't make any difference. This is how many cells we're going to have in one area. This is the number of cells, and then each one of these represents a different frequency. That's important. It's a different frequency. Over here, let's say that we're in a car, and we're at number 2. We happen to be right here in this part of town. we're hooked up to a cell tower. Each one of these little shapes. So we're a cell tower. We're hooked up to a cell tower, okay, that's using a certain frequency. We're going to call that frequency 2. Not that there's a frequency called 2, but we're going to call it that. Okay? As we travel, we're going to switch to this cell tower. Transparently, this cell tower 2 gives our call to number 1. We can continue traveling through number 1's territory until we get to 6. Number 1's frequency cell tower sends us over to 6. We travel through 6. Now we're back at 2. And here's what's going on. We're reusing frequencies. That enables us to have many, many people on the network at once. In the old days, they had one cell tower and one frequency, and that was it. Very limited use, and that's why it was in police cars, and it was in cars. It wasn't on mobile devices. But now the technology allows us, as we move through from one cell tower to the next, to the next, to the next, we change frequencies. And so we're reusing the same frequencies. We don't have to have a million frequencies. We have to have a few because we'll just keep switching off. And that's how it works. I think that's a marvelous way that they invented this. I would have never thought of it. Okay, that brings us to an end of our discussion of telephone technologies. And you can always go back and watch this more times. This is tied in with the slides. So, okay, I'll stop here and see you later.